Hi and welcome to GRVOTV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I am reviewing I've done a review on the Panasonic Lumix GX80/85/GX7 Mark II, and that should be up on my channel already. And I'm going to do a comparison with the Panasonic Lumix GX8. I'm also going to compare it to the GX7, but I'll do that separately. Sorry, the G7, but I'll do that separately. So, when this first came out, this camera, I completely dismissed it. I didn't look at it. I had no interest in it whatsoever. Then a couple of people said, "Oh, you know, it's a good camera. Have you reviewed it? Can you review it? Blah, blah, blah." So I thought, I'll get one. Not a particularly expensive camera, so I got one in for a review. I bought it. I pay for all my stuff with my own money. I don't get given anything. I don't get loaned anything. So everything that I buy with my own money. And if I don't like it, I sell it. And if I don't like it, I'll tell you. If I do like it, I'll tell you. But I've got no affiliation to, I know it looks like I might, Panasonic, but I do have Sony and other products. So this is a completely different camera to the GX8, but in a way it's very, very similar. And whilst this is the GX7 Mark II, and the GX7 is a camera I loved, it's still will go up against the GX8 in my opinion. And I'll tell you for why, because I'll tell you right off the bat, the camera I have chosen out of these two to keep, which has surprised me, is the GX8. And I am giving up a few things for that, and I will go through the differences. So the GX8 is a bigger camera, but it's actually lighter than the GX80. This is significantly heavier than this. It's not a little bit, it's significant. It's not heavy, really heavy, although when I gave it to my partner to see if she wanted it over the G7, she said no, it's too heavy. So that may be something that you look at before you would go ahead and purchase one. So yes, the first thing is it's heavier. Physical controls, it has less. So we lose the exposure compensation dial. However, the way I have the camera set up, I've got a function button assigned. Exposure compensation. I've got the a single press on the dial on the back, and then my exposure compensation comes up. I can move it with my thumb, I can move it on screen, and it also gives exposure compensation for the built-in flash, which this hasn't got, and also some bracketing functions as well, all on the press of that button. It's fantastic, it's seamless, and the fact that I haven't now got this physical lever, which I do love, with the button in the side, I don't mind, because all I've got to do, yes, I know it is more, rather than just move the lever, I've got to press a button, but I can literally press the button, touch the screen, it's seamless, it's not an issue in any way, shape or form. So that's that. Flash, yes, there is a built-in flash, which there isn't on here. You have to have an external flash. I use the Nissin i40, which is a fairly big flash when you look at the form factor. You can bounce it, which is great, so that works okay. We have still got a hot shoe, so I can put a bigger flash on there if I want to. You've got the same front dial, there is a rear dial on both, there is a PASM dial on both. On-off buttons in a slightly different place. Here I prefer it, here it's okay. I can still pick the camera up, turn it on one-handed and be ready to shoot, and that is important to me. Some of the Olympuses have the on-off button down here or over here, and it's a sort of a two-handed affair to turn the camera on. I like a camera that you can pick up, turn on and be ready to shoot, and you can turn it off just as quick to save battery. Talking of battery, the battery life in this is a smaller battery, and it charges in camera, not in the dock, although it does fit in the dock that you use for this one and the G6 and the G7, and it charges fine, but you are supposed to charge it in the camera. It doesn't last as long, but it's fine, it's okay, it's what you'd expect from a small battery and a small form factor. And what I do is, because you can charge in camera now, I just have one of those little sticks in the camera bag. Doesn't take up much weight or room, and you can charge it on the fly, which is good. So that's that. plenty of function buttons, and you've got soft and hard buttons, so you've got extra function buttons on the touchscreen, and the things that I tend to use that for are things that you don't use as often. So I've got like the Wi-Fi is a soft touch button, the histogram, snap movie function, a few other bits and bobs, but there's plenty of other function buttons, and you can set them up how you want. I've got them how I like it, it's fine. There was on here, there's again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 function buttons. On here we've got function 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's fine. Absolutely works a treat, no problems at all. Both of them have a touchscreen that works fantastically. This one, the screen only tilts fully up and down 45 degrees. I prefer the fully articulating screen on the GX8, but that is one of the things I'm giving up. There's no microphone input on here. There is on here, although it is a 2.5mm, so you need a decent quality adapter to adapt it to 3.5mm, which I've got for this. But no microphone at all on this. It's not a problem for me so much because I've got other cameras with microphone inputs. I've got the G7, I've got the G6 that I'm recording on now. So for me, it's not a big deal. It used to be, when I was using my main camera for my videoing, it had to have it, but because I don't do that now, I just have a lavalier mic plugged straightly into the camera. I have to have that, but because I've got that on another camera, it's not so important on this. The kind of video that I'm going to be using this for, I don't need the sound, and if I did, I could record to an external mic, or I've got a microphone, a lavalier mic for my iPhone now. Works absolutely fine, and then you just add it in post. Image quality on both of these is fantastic. I've got no issues with it. People will still say, it doesn't matter what I say, and I don't care. People say, oh, the small sensor is, I can't use the image quality, it's rubbish, it's not like the Fuji's and full frame and all that. The image quality is fantastic on both of these cameras. 20 megapixels, 16. This has got the low pass filter removed, which gives it pretty much the same image resolution as that. I can't see the difference in the files, to be fair. They're both fantastic. Low light performance, if anything, is better on this. I've got no problems shooting at high ISOs. Yes, you might get a cleaner image with a bigger sensor at the same ISO setting, but I've got no problems with any of the low light shooting I've done with this, and because fast lenses are so available for this and good value, it's not an issue. I can easily buy a 1.4 or 1.7, or I'll use my 1.8 lenses and get good low light performance, so that's not an issue for me. What else? So really, obviously this has got the tilting thing, but I've never used that. Much nicer, bigger viewfinder, but there's no problem with this viewfinder. Again, it suits the form factor. It's absolutely fine. So all in all, there's not a great deal of difference. It's more about style and the big thing, image stabilization. Sorry, did I not? I'm getting a bit what I've done. Image stabilization. We've got the in-body image stabilization next generation in here. Now there's a couple of things. One, it's better than that. Two, it works in video, which this doesn't. You can combine it with electronic stabilization, which is essentially cropping. You can also combine it with in-lens stabilization on certain lenses. Most of the popular lenses, you get dual IS. That makes the stabilization fantastic. You can handhold it a second if you, in the right circumstances, it's that good. What else was I going to say about the stabilization? Big thing for me is the view that you get, whether you're looking at the screen or the viewfinder. The view is now stabilized, whereas in this it's not. Now, you are trusting that the stabilization is working, but you can't see it working on this. A bit like the G7 when that first came out, the GX7 when that first came out. There is stabilization in it, but you can't see it working, and it's just disconcerting. Whereas in this, you get that eerie effect like in the OMD EM5 and the EM1 and the Olympuses, where you can see it in screen and it locks in beautifully, and then it's lovely and stabilised. So that's on here as well. That's good. With regards to how fast they shoot, very, very similar. If you're shooting RAW plus JPEG, fine JPEG, then they both will slow down a little bit where they're right into the card. It's not horrendous, but you still get a really good burst mode. If you're just shooting JPEGs, you can just hold the button down and just continue to shoot. It doesn't slow down, just keep going. I say if you're shooting, all I would say on this one, just make sure you've got a fast card. I put in a sort of a standard card, which was, I think it was a 15 megabits per second or a 30 megabits per second. This is a 60 megabits per second. It was a 30 megabit per second card, and when you shoot in RAW and JPEG, it was definitely slowing down and taking quite a while to then write the files to the card. I put the 60 megabits per second card in, and it was well, it was twice as good. It was much better, didn't have the problem at all. And all I would say is if you want to really shoot lots and lots of images and you're shooting RAW, either just shoot RAW or shoot RAW and normal JPEG as opposed to fine JPEG, and it'd be fine. But I say it's not an issue, it's just getting used to how quickly it can shoot. The blackout delay is about the same as this, and you can slow the speed down and reduce the amount of blackout, which is quite good, and you can set that up how you want. You can set this up to shoot ridiculously fast. I mean, I'll just go in, let's go in and I'll just set it to, right, we'll do, this is with live view, so this is without so much blackout, medium. Very, very quiet shutter on this. So that's that. And then we can go to high, so you lose the live view. A bit quicker. And then you can go, you've got then the silly high one, which is using the electronic shutter, which is something like 30 or 40 frames per second, some ridiculous thing. Let's go back. I just leave it on medium with live view, and that works absolutely fine for me. Yeah, brilliant. So speed is not an issue. You've got all the post focus, so you can focus after the fact. You can take an image and focus afterwards on where you want, on the foreground or background. It uses the 4K video to do all that. You've got the pre-burst 4K photo modes, whereby as you touch the shutter button and take the picture, it records the previous second or whatever. It does some shots before you've pressed the button and after, so then you choose the picture you want. It's got lots of different 4K functions. It's got the slider effect that you can use, which is utilising 4K video, and you get a 1080p video, but it looks like you've got it on a slider. Absolutely fantastic. This has got the post focus and a few other bits, but not the slider option thing. You've got up to 1/16,000th of a second electronic shutter. It's got a new shutter in this, which is an electromagnetic shutter, so you don't get so much shutter shock. So that's not an issue with this camera as far as I can see. To be honest, it's never been an issue with this one for me either. Some people have had issues with it. I've never had an issue. But in this, the shutter is very quiet and very delicate, is how I would describe it. So no problems with that. So for me, my decision on choosing between these cameras is to choose the GX80. If it was the only camera I had, and I needed the microphone input and I needed it for the video functions, I would choose the GX8. But the fact that I don't need that function means that I can go for this one. Very easy for me to decide and lose a few functions because I've got other ways of doing it, so it's not a problem for me. But as I say, you pay your money, you take your choice. Again, you know, bigger but lighter, smaller but heavier. you give up some functions and you gain some functions on both. But I say my choice is the GX80 for now. This will be sold, and I'll get something else to try next. But anyway, that's my sort of side-to-side comparison with the GX80 and the GX8. This has been GRVOTV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'll see you soon. Bye.